Macduff has now arrived to England and is now talking to Malcolm. Malcolm isn't quite sure if he can trust Macduff's intentions for trying to join his side. After all, since Macduff has left his family in Scotland, it seems fairly likely to Malcolm that perhaps Macduff will betray Malcolm and serve him to Macbeth. But to find out if Macduff can really be trusted or not, Malcolm starts to put on an act as if he is an irresponsible and greedy, unworthy person. Malcolm starts to tell Macduff that although the King of England is ready to lend him thousands of soldiers for a full-out war, he would actually be a worse king than Macbeth himself. He says that his lust is completely out of control, and that all of the women, wives, daughters, matrons, and maids would not be able to fill up his sexual desires. At first, Macduff tries to reason with Malcolm, and says that there would be more than enough people that would be able to satisfy his sexual desires if Malcolm were to become king, and that it couldn't possibly be worse than Macbeth being the king. But Malcolm presses on, saying that he is also a greedy person and that he would steal all the wealth of the country for himself. He manages to convince Macduff that he is not fit to become king, and when Macduff realizes this, he starts to break down. In Macduff's mind, Macbeth is a terrible king, and Malcolm was his only hope. But now that Malcolm seems like an unworthy king himself, Scotland has lost its future. He even goes on to tell Malcolm that much less than being fit to govern as king, he is not even fit to live. As Macduff continues to speak out his thoughts and grieve over the aimlessly troubled state of Scotland, Malcolm reveals to Macduff that he had been lying all along in order to see if Macduff was truly a loyal servant to Scotland. As the two of them are talking, a doctor walks in and says that a group of people are waiting for King Edward to cure them. Apparently, the King of England has the power to cure people of certain diseases miraculously. From the distance, a man approaches. Joining up with Malcolm's army is Ross. And when he's asked about how Macduff's family is doing, he first tells them that Macduff's family was fine until he left, and that he has been hearing news that men are preparing to overthrow Macbeth. Malcolm tells Ross that he will be returning to Scotland with 10,000 men given by the generous King Edward. After speaking for a little while longer, Ross eventually lets out the truth about Macduff's family. He tells Macduff that all of Macduff's family, including Lady Macduff, has been murdered. After the shock settles, both Malcolm and Macduff become determined to focus their minds on the battle ahead of them. The battle against the traitorous Macbeth in an effort to win back Scotland.